We're going to start with the roll call and introductions of the board. I'm Paul Howell, the chairman of the Douglas County Advisory Board to Manage Wildlife. And I'll start from my far right there.
Michael Xavier.
Craig Burnside.
Garrett Buma.
Kevin Carr.
And then Lorraine is our secretary. And is Carl in the room as an in-now official?
I think Carl had to step out.
Okay. Carl Lackey from the Department of Wildlife may be coming in. At this time, I'm going to open up this meeting to public comment. A public comment will be allowed on those items not appearing on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Douglas County Advisory Board to Manage Wildlife. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. If you're going to comment on a specific agenda item scheduled for discussion and actions, please do so when that item is open for public comment. Okay? So do we have any public comment on an item that is not on our agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of public comment. And also I know we're crowded here. We have the best reporting for Elaine's equipment. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and think I know what most of the people are here to comment on. And we have moved that item on the wild horse issue to the first item on our administrative agenda. Okay, for possible action, approval of agenda. The Douglas County Wildlife Board reserves the right to take items in different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner, to combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration, and to remove items from the agenda or delay discussion relating to items of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. I'll second.
I have the first from Craig Burnside, a second from Vice Chair Kevin Carr. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. That item passes.
That is an action item, Mr. Chair. We need to take that
Oh,
up.
sorry, I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you for the approval. I'll take it out to public comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll close that item. Next item for possible action, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, January 23rd, 2024.
I'll second.
We have a first by Kevin Carr, second by Craig Burnside. It is an action item, so I'll open it up for public comment.
You don't have any notes about voice recording.
Okay, seeing none, I'll close that item. Take it to the board for a vote. All in favor of approval of minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, we'll go on to the administrative agenda. It will be handled as follows. I will read the item title into the public record. The presenter, if any, will provide a report. The board will then discuss the matter. The public will then be allowed to comment on the item, and comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Once public comment is completed, the board will then ask any follow-up questions and take action. Okay, first item is discussion on the results of the January 26th and 27th, 2024 Nevada Board of Wildlife Commission meetings.
Okay, so I was supposed to attend. I wasn't able to. I ran into a family emergency, but I did watch the video and bring notes back based off of what we had talked about at our last meeting. One of the things that came up in the beginning was from the Clark County CAB about virtual attendance to CAB meetings and how they would like to open up some education and their success story, if you will, on having virtual attendance to their CAB meetings. So, word on that, there was no comment from the commission on that one. A big question we came up with was the status of moose, and they had a pretty in-depth presentation on that one. I highly recommend to go in there and watch it. I know the question was how many moose do we currently have, and the estimation is over 100 currently, and the verbiage that kept being used was that we're in a population explosion that's not sustainable, so getting the regulation out front now to then apply that later was the recommendation there. That petition about creating the special archery season for sheep got denied. And then most of the language and all the other things that were brought up was basically taken as is, except for some verbiage on times for the specialty tags, turning it to Pacific time instead of Pacific Standard Time to have a standard all the way through. But other than that, they were mostly taken as presented.
Okay. Questions from other committee members?
I just had a question, Mr. Chairman. We were talking about the call-in for the special sheep tags, you know, the call-in, did they just
They
stick with
did
that?
it as is.
Okay.
Okay, so they did not,
The calling is still.
you still have to
Still
call it.
required.
Okay. Any more on item 2? Okay. All right, item 1, excuse me. Item 2, discussion and update on the activities and actions of the Mule Deer Enhancement Program Subcommittee.
Mr. Chair, we have not met since our last meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. We'll move right on to then number 3. The following items, 3A through 3I, are items that will be heard before the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners at the next meetings, March 8th and 9th, 2024, at the Clark County Government Center, 500 South Grand Central Parkway, Las Vegas, Nevada. The Douglas County Advisory Board to Manage Wildlife may take the following action or a variation thereof on each item. Support the item, not support the item, or not take a position on the item. Public comment will be allowed on each item. And before we move into that, there was been some confusion. I just want to make sure that those of you in attendance for public comment on any of our agenda items understand that this is the Douglas County Advisory Board to Manage Wildlife, not the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. Okay, we have been contacted and addressed as a Board of County Commissioners, and we are not that policy-setting body. Okay. All right, the first item, item 3A, for possible action, discussion on the wild horse and burro letter. Discussion of the sign-on wild horse burro letter addressed to Tracy Stone Manning, the Director of the Bureau of Land Management from the Coalition for Healthy Nevada Lands, Wildlife, and Free Roaming Horses. Before we go to public comment, do any of the commissioners want to comment on this or talk about it? No. The only thing I'll mention as a board member is we are obviously an independent body, but it is, I think, noteworthy that the County Board of Commissioners, who we operate under their authority, has by proclamation from their constituents, the Douglas County public, passed a proclamation in support of the Pine Nut Wild Horse Association and their
Advocates.
work at,
Advocates.
advocates and the work they've done with the local pine nut herd. With that, if no other board members have any comments, I'll open up for public comment. And if you're gonna make public comment, please come up to this chair and sign in, and comments limited to 3 minutes.
Oh, gee, the words.
Mr. Chair, I do have time as the vice chairman. I have
All righty. Good evening, guys. Ladies. My name is John T. Humphrey. I, as a land manager for the American Wild Horse Campaign's Fish Springs Land Preserve, it was a local 3,300 plus acre habitat conservation project. I strongly urge you to reject the request that Douglas County sign on to the Wild Horse and Burro Letter Item 3A. Douglas County's wild horses are a local treasure. The public strongly supports their protection, as shown by the hundreds of residents who have turned out at public meetings over the past decade to tell the federal government not to remove our wild horses. Drawing on my 30 years of wildlife conservation experience and as a wildlife guide for the past 14 years here locally, I know that the Fish Springs wild horses are an important ecotourism resource for our county. I have taken visitors from all over the world out to see the Fish Springs herd for a dozen years, and I can personally attest to the interest and value these horses bring to our community and our local businesses. The federal government should take note of the model we've built locally for cost-effective and humane management of wild horses, in contrast to other herds in Nevada that have been mismanaged by the BLM The Fish Springs wild horse population is kept in balance with its environment through a cost-effective and humane fertility control program, which is implemented successfully by the Pine Knot Wild Horse Advocates. In addition to the Wild Horse Campaign's land conservation project, is protecting and restoring habitat for all wildlife species on the Fish Springs Range where there are no conflict with ranchers or wildlife. These programs are sustainably preserving the historic Fish Springs wild horse herd and our wildlife, consistent with Douglas County's strategic priorities of protecting open space, managing access to federal lands, and preserving our heritage and culture. The interest of Douglas County residents and businesses alike will not be served by a recommendation to support the Wild Horse and Burro letter, item 3A. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Wilson, and I'm the Nevada State Director for the American Wild Horse Campaign. I'm just going to start by saying the American Wild Horse Campaign urges the board to decline to sign on to this letter, which endorses the continuation of federal mismanagement and misuse of taxpayer funds. Instead, we feel the BLM should be asked to immediately reallocate funds to increase meaningful fertility control application on the range and seek the funding to do so. It's been stated that wild horse and burro populations need to be reduced to AML before fertility control will work. However, continuing to round up wild horses en masse while waiting to get to AML is not only proven to be counterproductive to the BLM's goals, but it's costing the taxpayers millions. It's been 10 years since the National Academy of Sciences was paid by the BLM to evaluate, and they recommended robust fertility control as a strong management tool. I'd like to point out two of their findings. One, removals are likely to keep the population at a size that maximizes population growth, which in turn maximizes the number of animals that must be removed and processed through holding facilities. And two, in the short term, more intensive management of free-ranging horses and burros would be expensive. However, addressing the problem immediately with a long-term view is probably a more affordable option than continuing to remove horses to long-term holding facilities. Yet, over 10 years later, this failing removal cycle continues. It's costing the taxpayers millions of dollars per year. The BLM needs to use scientifically proven fertility control in a meaningful way. Even when a population is over AML, every birth prevented with fertility control is one less horse removed, requiring taxpayer funding to be held in long-term holding for its lifetime. We've already seen that fertility control works on a larger scale in the world's largest wild horse fertility control program on the Virginia Range, with data published this year in the journal Vaccines. As of the close of 2023, full births on that range have now been reduced by 66%. While some say a program like this can only be implemented in a herd that's acclimated to humans, many of the Virginia Range horses live high on the range where they're quite afraid of people. And yet our volunteer team continues to trek into those wild areas to treat mares. If they can do it, imagine what can be done on a larger scale with more resources. BLM's own listed fertility control treatment target for FY 2023 was only 1,346 horses, which was not met. In 2023 alone, we administered fertility control to 1,178 mares on the Virginia Range. Through a local partnership, we've reignited and supported delivery of fertility control to mares on the Pine Knot Mountains HMA, and we've started administering fertility control to mares in the Cedar Mountain HMA in Utah. Even closer to home, the local volunteers here are implementing a successful fertility control program on the Fish Springs wild horses right here in Douglas County. BLM needs to take measured steps to reallocate resources and scale fertility control up. If we're finally to have a truly humane and supported program, there has to be a significant change in priority towards on-range management. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
And last but not least, is there anyone else? Good afternoon. So I don't have a planned speech, but I'm certainly here
Can you
as
please
your...
state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Mary Siafi, and I am president of the Pine Knot Wild Horse Advocates, our local 501c3 that was put together by our community, and at their request, we follow the direction of the community on how to protect the wild horses of the Fish Springs Range. So around 2013 or 14, we implemented a lot of different methods of protecting the herd. We've moved water, we've done whatever we could, we've done major educational programs for the community meetings where we've had hundreds of people show up, which has always been really beneficial for our organization. All of our efforts are supported by local donations. We don't take on any taxpayers' funds at all. Our darting program, which is for the fertility control, has been incredibly successful. And we have tried to respond to BLM's cautions and concerns is what we're doing. We always come back with common sense solutions to whatever they said. So we had a nice darting team. We were doing very well with getting our reproduction rate down. BLM shut us down at a threat of a lawsuit by another advocate group. And so we lost a couple years where we weren't allowed to dart, and then we started again. As of today, from our original program, we have a 90% reduction in the reproduction rate of our wild horses on the Fish Springs Range. So when COVID hit, it was me doing the darting because we couldn't put people together. And so BLM said, well, we can't depend on a program that just depends on you. So we put together more people and a better dart team, 6 amazing individuals that are out there that got our horses darted so quickly. We've sent them over to the HMA area of Dayton to assist with them, and they're doing a great job over there as well. So we have always looked for logical solutions for our local wild horses, and while we want to address this letter doesn't really apply to Douglas County. It may be something, as our chairman, Mark Gardner, would say, other counties have expressed concerns of the wild horse population and the wild horse problems, but Douglas County doesn't have that problem. So we are strongly encouraging you not to sign on to this letter, because it's just not an issue that affects us. Our program is supported totally by the local community. We're not just wild horse advocates. As you can see from the room, we're also wildlife advocates. So we don't just want to see the range destroyed. The American Wild Horse Campaign came in and purchased, with the money from donors, almost 3,400 acres of land and put it immediately into a conservation easement after removing all the development rights to assure that nothing ever happened to that land except it was allowable use for wildlife and wild horses. And much of that property that we still have for sale out there that we'd still like to see get into the right hands and get into conservation easements is critical by state sage-grouse habitat. And so our mission is ongoing, not just as wild horse advocates, but as wildlife advocates as well. We have lots of missions on our board. We have active people that are out there all the time. Is my 3 minutes?
We're running a bit over, so.
Do you have any questions for us? You got it. Thank you.